What's going on, friends? I am often asked what is the best year range of the twin cam engines. The twin cam engines ran from 1999 to 2017 in several different displacement iterations. And it really comes down to what your skill level is and really what you plan on doing with the bike. I'll often get a question of, I found this twin cam 88, it's got less than 20,000 miles on it, and it's got this really good price on it. Well, automatically in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that's a great price, but there's a lot of unknowns with that used 88. How much money are you going to have to put in it to update it? You could potentially be the second, third, or fourth owner of this motorcycle, so who knows if the cam chest has ever been upgraded. And even if you're doing a cam chest yourself, and while you're in there, upgrading your cam bearings, maybe throwing a set of cams in it, that's $1,000 doing it yourself when you're upgrading the cam plate. Guys, before we get too far into the video today, please don't forget to hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. So with that added cost in mind, you kind of start thinking, well, maybe I should look at a 96. It doesn't have the spring tensioners in it. It is fuel injected. I know there's a lot of debate on fuel injection, but you're getting more modern creature comforts with it. Plus you're getting more displacement, plus you're getting a 6-speed transmission, and you can basically jump on it, take off and ride, and not have to do anything to it. Now with the 96, there is a potential issue for the compensator. They did have a weak compensator about the first 2 or 3 years of the 96. But when it comes to that, I usually don't worry too much about the compensators unless it's exhibiting the signs of having a problem. Basically at the primary, sounds like a box of rocks or not. So really all the twin cam engines are pretty good. It just comes down to what your skill level is. Do you work on your own motorcycle? Or do you take it to somebody to have some of the heavier work done right outside of the basic maintenance window? If you work on the bikes yourself and you're not paying labor for somebody else to do it, twin cam 88 is an excellent option because you could buy an 88 pretty cheap and then do the work yourself. Yeah, granted, you're going to be putting some extra money into a bike you just bought, but it's worth it to get it upgraded because on an 88, in my mind, the cam chest is non-negotiable. Whether you buy a used 88 and they tell you that it's been done, that cam chest has been upgraded or the shoes have been changed, it is worth your while to crack it open and have a look and check out the tensioners in there and make sure they're in good shape. Because the last thing you want to do is take somebody at their word or even a receipt, because anything can happen there. You don't want to risk shelling that engine. So if you paid $5,000 for a twin cam 88 and you end up ruining the motor in it because the cam chain tensioners came apart, you really didn't get a very good deal on it at that point with having to buy a whole new engine. Now twin cam 96, great engine. Absolutely love it. There's really not a bad twin cam out there. The 96 does have its benefits over the 88. With the 6-speed transmission, you have the added displacement. We don't have the cam chain tensioner issues, but as I mentioned, we do have that compensator issue. But the compensator is really, it is an issue, but it isn't. I don't immediately go and change them out. If it's working fine, I generally run it. But if you want some peace of mind, sure, you could go ahead and swap it out for a Screaming Eagle piece, or go with the Baker, or just go with a Dark Horse compensator eliminator. But with the 96, there is a lot less that you have to put up front into them to really get them kind of modernized and make them reliable to the point where you would want them. Now, as always, anything after 2007 and newer, I do recommend going in and getting rid of the automatic primary chain tensioner. Just my theory is that that primary chain tensioner was a lot of the cause of some of the transmission issues with the 6-speed that came out on the twin cam 96. Because basically it ratcheted up too tight, your compensator and your clutch, and it was wrenching all this together, and it was costing us transmission seals, causing cranks to come out of balance. So it is definitely worth your while to get the automatic tensioner out and go ahead and swap it out for a manual tensioner. You could get the Screaming Eagle version for about $150, or you could go out and get a Baker. I think they're a little closer to $200. But definitely worth it, and you only got to mess with it about every 10,000 miles. It just takes a lot of the worry about what's going on down there and if your primary chain is too tight or not. Now obviously if you're interested in a large touring model, the larger displacement is going to be better because you're going to get more torque and a bit more horsepower the more you go up the food chain with the twin cams. Now, that's not to say you can't get an 88 and put a big bore kit on it, or bore it out, or put some cams in it and get a little extra power and torque to meet your needs. But if you're going out and buying a bike, getting a newer one with a little larger displacement engine, that does have its benefits without having to crack into the motor, as I mentioned, if you're having to pay somebody to do the labor. If you do your own work, not such a big worry. You could do that at home in the garage in a weekend. So guys, Twin Cam 103, this probably has to be my flavor of twin cam engine. Yes, the 103s cost more money up front, but the 103 is just an excellent starting point for anybody that wants to buy the bike, just get on it and ride it. Right out of the box, the Twin Cam 103 obviously has the most horsepower and torque of all the twin cam engines, minus the CVO 110. I know somebody was going to call me out on that one. But the 103, there's just so much you could do with that motor as is if you choose to do so. With a Twin Cam 103, you could throw just a set of bolt-in cams on these and make 100 horsepower right out of the box. And if you choose to do so with that 103 displacement, all you got to do is put some high compression pistons in one of these and you'll get even more out of it, well over 100 horsepower. 103 to me really is an excellent displacement for the twin cam motor. It didn't put out as much heat as the 110s, and also with just the 103 in general, Harley had all the bugs worked out in this. And of course, in typical Harley fashion, they had all the bugs worked out in it, so of course we had to usher in the era of the Milwaukee 8. Likely not by Harley's choice, because EPA and the twin cams pretty much ran way too hot to begin with. But also with the Twin Cam 103, you do have options. Some of the earlier 103s, they had about, I want to say it was a 496 lift cam, but then later on, they improved the 103 a little bit further, and they went with the 103 HO, the high output version. Now, the high output version just had a little hotter cam in it. It had a 511 lift cam. And these were great for torque. They didn't really give it a huge bump in horsepower, just a little bit, but your big gains were made in torque with that 511 cam. So for anybody that wants to buy something and just ride it, the 103 is really worth the investment in the later models. If you want to go through a dealer to buy a certified used bike, you can actually still get one with a warranty on it. Another big plus for a 103, especially if you're interested in a touring bike, was if you buy a 2014 or newer, these are basically the post-Project Rushmore bikes. This was where Harley-Davidson actually took its customer feedback and put that feedback into their touring models and did a lot of upgrades in ergonomics, creature comforts, and that's probably likely where the 103 HO idea came from, was putting a little more torque into these late model bikes. So really when it comes to the twin cam engine, there's really not a bad year. It's just you're going to have different things that you'll want to sort out with these engines per year. Now, with the late model 103s, really the only thing I would recommend doing with those, other than a good tune on it, get some of that heat out of the bike, is just to get rid of that automatic primary chain tensioner just for peace of mind, to where you know where your primary chain's set. So every year is going to have something that you're going to want to do to it. Now, the newer they get, really, personally, the less you're going to have to do to them. So somebody that does their own work, or if you've never worked on a Harley before, if you can follow a detailed service manual, go for the Twin Cam 88, go for the 96. You can pretty much do anything you want. But if you're somebody that you do your own oil changes, you do your own minor services, but you're not really into getting into the motor or fixing any minor major problems within the engine, I would suggest getting a 96, Twin Cam 96 or Twin Cam 103. This is something that you're going to have to probably do less to, because I say probably because when it comes to a used bike, it's a pig and a poke. It's a dice roll when you buy a used one. I've been burned before. I bought bikes that looked good, sounded good, and ended up having them blow up on me. It's just a fact of life with used motorcycles, used cars, used anything, really. So guys, really when it comes down, what is the best twin cam engine? It really depends on you. What do you want to do with it, and are you willing to work on it? And hopefully you're not having to pay somebody to do it, because to sort a few things out, labor isn't cheap and that could add up pretty quick. So guys, while I can't give you a definitive answer of what's the best twin cam out there ever made, the be all to end all, It really comes down to the person buying it, what you plan to do with it, and what your skill level is. But if you're looking at buying a new Harley-Davidson for the first time and you're interested in a twin cam model, I hope this gave you a little food for thought on what you're buying. Because I hate to see you go out, sink all your money into an 88, and then need another $1,500 to $2,000 into it, and you're like, oh man, I could have just bought a 96 or maybe even a 103. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. I really appreciate y'all watching. Please stay safe on the streets, dodge those cars, and I'll catch you guys in next week's video. Thanks for watching.